welcome to the Flame and Fiber podcast. This is episode 37. My name is Barbara. You can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as Diva S. Welcome to the podcast. If you're new, thank you so much for checking me out. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. And as always, I want to say thank you to the people who have reached out and who have participated in our giveaway and who have made comments and sent me messages. I really, really appreciate it. I cannot tell you how important that is to me. So thank you. Thank you, everybody. And hello. So it is Monday, August 28th. I have been away since my last podcast, although it was 2 weeks ago, so I was gone. I left the Thursday after I podcast last and got home last Friday. So anyway, we went to Maine and we're on a sailing schooner. It was wonderful. I will put pictures at the end of some of the things that we saw. Here's a picture of me knitting because I took my knitting. Last podcast I talked about my angst about what was going on and my anxiety about the dogs because the kennel was full on Saturday night, and so I had to make all kinds of arrangements for my mother-in-law to pick up the dog and my sister-in-law to stay overnight here with the dogs on Saturday night and then take them back to the kennel on Sunday. And when we dropped the girls off, there was no change, and so we told them what the plan was, and but we had forgotten the rabies certificate for Pearl. We had the vaccination thing, but they need the separate rabies certificate. So our kennel is actually only about a mile from our house, not even. So on our way out of town, we were driving back to drop off the certificate, and the kennel called and said, we had a cancellation for Saturday night, so the girls can stay. They don't have to leave on Saturday. So that was really nice because I was so stressed about the whole idea of trying to coordinate this thing, although we wouldn't be on the boat yet when it had to happen because we had to be on the boat on Sunday night. But it was, anyway, so the girls got to stay. We were a little concerned about Pearl. She was kind of afraid of big dogs, but she had playtime with the other dogs and had a wonderful time, and she did really well. So Dasha, our old girl, has bum legs in the back, and we shouldn't have given her playtime because she came home really not doing that great. So that's too bad. So next time we go away, which will be in 2 weeks, she'll just get a walk instead of playtime with the other dogs. So then someone will walk her for 10 minutes a day. And so she'll have a little bit of a walk and a lot of rest. And I think that'll work well for her. But anyway, thank you all for your words of concern and your and understanding why I was feeling so anxious, because it just felt like it was kind of crazy. But I was hoping that something would change and they would be able to stay. And luckily, that is what happened. And so my mother-in-law did not have to pick them up, but I'm still planning on giving my sister-in-law the gift I bought because we wouldn't have been able to continue if she hadn't agreed to do it, and she was ready and we appreciated it. And I bought them for her, so she's getting them anyway. In fact, I saw her last night and at my mother-in-law's. If I hadn't known she was there, I would have taken her them. The necklace and earrings that I got from Lorelei Erdo to her, but I didn't know she was going to be there. So anyway, but we will see her in 2 weeks because we are going on the Dennis's family rents a huge house in the Outer Banks every September, and the cousins all come. These are cousins on both sides because it's everybody that goes is related either to Dennis's mother or his father. On those two sides of the family. So it's a house full of cousins, some of whom aren't cousins of each other, but are cousins through my in-laws. And anyway, so we go for a week, and that happens in 2 weeks. So feels like we've been very busy. But But while I'm away on that trip, it will be my 1-year podiversary, because I don't know if you've been with me from the very beginning. My first podcast was on September 10th last year, and my next podcast, I didn't podcast the next week. I was doing my podcasts weekly at that time, but I skipped my second podcast was 2 weeks after my first, because I was in the Outer Banks. And so when I get back from the Outer Banks this year, we'll be celebrating my 1-year podiversary. So that year seems to have gone fast. So anyway, so the dogs will be back in the kennel. Emperor will have lots of dogs to play with, and Dasha will relax and not have quite so much going on. So anyway, we had a wonderful trip, and I just opened my drink. I am drinking Diet Moxie. Now, if you're from New England, you probably have heard of Moxie, but I had never heard of Moxie before. It's a regional soda, pop, whatever you want to call it. And if you like root beer or Dr. Pepper, you might like Moxie. And I do. I like Moxie, and I like those two. And you've heard the word Moxie. In fact, I was just watching Jake and Ray's podcast, the Dog Star Matecast, and their dog's name is Moxie. And Moxie, in English, Moxie means, sort of like an attitude. It's like, you got Moxie, you're a little bit of a swagger, attitude kind of thing, a little bit of a chutzpah, I guess. I'm not sure. It's a positive thing. And that word comes from this soda. Who knew? Anyway, one discovery on our trip. So we went on the J&E Riggin schooner. That was the whole point of the trip. It's a sailing schooner out of Rockland, Maine. And I found out about this schooner because I watch Heather of the Fiberista Files podcast. She is the dyer behind Highland Handmaids, and she lives in Maine. And this, the woman who owns this boat is a knitter, and there are several sailings with a knitting theme. And Heather was on last year. She did spinning. I think she was talking about spinning last year, but that sailing was the week of Father's Day. And then this year she had another one that was dyeing that was the week of Father's Day. But my father-in-law's birthday is the week of Father's Day. And last year he was 99, so we gave him a party. And this year he's 100, so we gave him another party. He's not getting a party next year, we already told him. Probably have a party. So anyway, I couldn't go on those, but it turned me on to the J&E Riggin, and Dennis is very interested in sailing, so we decided to celebrate our 25th anniversary and his 65th birthday and go on a sailing trip. And we squeezed it in between the granddaughter's birthdays, and we had a lovely time. But we went a couple days early and stayed in an inn outside of Rockland, and that was lovely. Anyway, we had a wonderful time. And I got a lot of knitting done. Did I mention this is a knitting podcast? It may not be obvious, since I think I've, almost 9 minutes in, I finally said the word knitting. But you'll see lots of pictures at the end. Well, maybe not lots, because I was knitting. So I did not take I took my socks that I was knitting, but I didn't take my shawl because I was almost done with my shawl, and I didn't want to. So I took 2 brand new projects with me. And the first project I took was, I have this silk lace weight yarn that I don't even remember who it's from. I have had it for several years. It's a beautiful color. It is Tussa silk, and and it is very small. And 2 years ago, oops, I just lost my stitch marker. Well, it doesn't matter. 2 years ago, my mother picked out a scarf that she wanted out of a scarf book that I have. And I bought this yarn to make that scarf. And the scarf was knit side from the corner. It was a rectangular scarf, but you start at one corner, and so you're knitting it kind of on the bias like this, and it comes out rectangular. You know what I mean. And it was very geometric. And I had been working on it for quite a while, and I had about this much done. And I could not figure out the stitch count. And if I couldn't get the stitch count, I couldn't figure out what it should be. I couldn't figure out what I could count what I have, but it didn't seem right. And I couldn't figure out from the chart how many stitches I should have. And I spent, I don't know, I was sitting on my deck. I was trying to make it for Mother's Day. Sitting on my deck for an hour trying to figure out this pattern. And I ended up bursting into tears. I was so frustrated and a little sad. And so Dennis came out and saw me, and he said, your mother would never want you to be sitting here crying, trying to knit her this scarf. And I said, you're absolutely right. So I made her something else. I made her, Because I Love You shawl from the Periscoping Sisters. And so I've had this yarn for quite a while, and I have an idea. I want to make my mother a scarf out of this yarn. And so I decided I would do this. She's turning 85 in October. And I thought, this is the time for me to, I've been knitting in a couple more years now. I'm a better knitter. So I decided I wanted to make her this. This is called the Quadra Shawl. And I don't know who this is by. Von Hittermstein. I'll put it on the screen. But it's a sheer scarf, and it's got boxes of stockinette and then reverse stockinette, stockinette, reverse stockinette. So it's a reversible scarf. So there's no right side or wrong side. Both sides look the same. But these dark patches are very interesting. These are done, you can see how much darker that is. If you're familiar with spinning and plying and Navajo plying, and spinning is you take a single and you loop it through itself, and so when you pull it long through this loop, you end up with 3 strands, and it's a way of doing a 3 ply yarn from one single. And you use this when you have long color blends and things. You don't want to lose the colors, and so anyway, it's a way of turning one thread into a strand of 3. And that is what she does, or she I assume does, to make these patches. So you're going along having this very sheer fabric, and all of a sudden you have these patches, which are really cool. But you can see it doesn't look good. I don't know if you can see. It doesn't look good. So I need to practice. So I did this much when I was at the and for some reason, wherever I put a stitch marker, look what it looks like. That stitch marker, I mean, and it's the skinniest thing you can imagine. I mean, it wasn't the physical barrier. There's some kind of psychological, I don't know what it was, but with that stitch marker there, which was I was marking where I switched from stockinette to reverse stockinette, I got this huge, this one's not so bad, but this one's terrible. So anyway, I worked on this for one day when we were at the inn. We didn't have a comfy chair in our room, but we took a corner of the living room. And so I worked on this and realized that I'm going to have to take this out. I don't like the way it works. So, it's like practice. So I've been practicing. But because these patches are Navajo plaid, it's not going to be a straightforward just ripping it out. So I'm going to have to rip it out carefully. So oh, there's where my size 6s are. I was wondering where these needles were. So I decided to just stop what I was doing. I wasn't going to do this because it needed more practice. And so once again, I'm going to rip out the scarf that I was going to make my mother for this yarn, with this yarn. I don't know, it's holding up pretty well considering. So anyway, I don't know if I'm going to try the Quadra again for my mother for her birthday, but I really love the look of that. I mean, it's just really kind of simple but elegant. And I do like a reversible scarf. You know, that's completely the same on both sides. I like that. So this is what I worked on for a while, and then I stopped. But this was one of the new projects that I brought with me on our trip. And I did some of that knitting, and then I stopped, and that's all coming out. So I worked on that. The other thing that I brought was, you know, I'm thinking about Rhinebeck and the spirit of the Rhinebeck knit along. I hope you're making sweaters to wear to Rhinebeck or in honor of Rhinebeck. But my Rhinebeck sweater that I already have started, which I intend to finish, was too complicated for me to bring on my trip. I have you know, 3 charts for each line, which is fine. You know, I can, if I have a place to put my charts down, and you know, it's not hard, and I have some hope that I'll even memorize it. But until then, I decided I would start something new. And I had bought this yarn at Rhinebeck last year from the Harrisville Designs. I had gotten it out of the discount bin, and I had gotten 3 cones of gray and 4 cones of burgundy. And this was $5 a cone. $5 a cone. So I was thinking, oh, well, when I go to Rhinebeck, I'll get more of that yarn. And then I thought, wait a minute, you got the yarn last year and you didn't knit anything with it. For all you know, you don't even like it. You know, I mean, let's face facts. It's not super soft. It doesn't feel super prickly, but it's not soft. It's kind of scratchy. It's a little bit rustic. And, you know, I'm telling myself, oh, it won't be too prickly. But then I'm not wearing it yet, am I? So I picked a sweater and decided I'm going to do a pullover out of the gray. And I picked the Mahlon Sweater by Isabelle Kramer. I love Isabelle Kramer's stuff. I think I want to look like her, and I am not. And you know, I'm in no way shaped like the models that she uses. You know, but I want to be. I want to be like this woman, apparently, but I'm not going to be. But I'm making the sweater anyway. So I started this sweater last Saturday, a week ago Saturday, because it was before I got on the boat, and I was hoping to get the ribbing at the bottom finished so that it wouldn't even be on needles anymore for the podcast. But I wasn't able to do that. I had to like get on with things because we just took Pearl for a training lesson, our first training lesson with Pearl, and we had things to do. So I will have this part off the needles tonight. I promise. So anyway, this is my Mahlon sweater, and I'm really happy with it. One of the things about this sweater, though, I read a notes on one of the people's thing. The sweater, when you make it, has kind of a funny, I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. I just touched it, so now it's, hold on. Can you see how the neck, no you cannot, there you go. Can you see how that neckline goes up here? See, that's what I did before. All right. Well, anyway, trust me, it goes up. I'll see if I can put a picture up here. And one of the women who had done it made a note saying that she had changed the decreases around the front that to help with that. Now, it doesn't look like I've succeeded very well with that. I did what she said, but I have this sort of thing in the middle. I'm not sure what's going on with that, but I'm going to be solving the what I see as the problem with that. When I pick up for the neckline, I'm going to pick up for the neckline so that it has a nice curve. That's my plan. I hope that I can do that. So this has a wide neckline. It is, you know, it is a rustic wool. So I'm not going to be wearing this without a long sleeve t-shirt or something under it. But I am really happy with how it's turning out. I have made this longer than the pattern. I tried it on last night. I had two inches of ribbing on it when it was up to here or so. Then I tried it and I said, I better try this on. And it wasn't long enough. So I took that ribbing out, and because it would have been off the needles if I hadn't done that. But I took the ribbing off and I went and I made it longer. So this is much longer than the pattern calls for, which I prefer. Also, when I tried it on, it fits me with negative ease. And pretty clearly, it's not supposed to fit with negative ease. It's supposed to have positive ease. So I'm not terribly upset that it's a little bit tighter, but I do intend to block it maybe a little more aggressively than I would if it were neutral, zero ease or positive ease. Yeah, well, we'll see. I haven't, after I take it off the needles, I'll try it on again. But my thought was I might be blocking this kind of aggressively, so I wanted a little bit extra length, because when you stretch a sweater wider this way, it gets a little shorter. So I wanted to have some room for that. But anyway, so this is my Mahlon sweater with my Reversible tweeds. And I think it's called, what did I say? Highland yarn. Anyway, I have one more of these. So this is an 8-ounce cone, and so I'm halfway through the second 8-ounce cone, and I have no idea if that's going to be enough for the sleeves. Probably not. I'll probably break into my third cone, but I didn't have any trouble with it not matching, so that was good when I changed cones. So anyway, I'm excited about this. So, and quite frankly, it's the only thing I've wanted to knit for a week. So I'm going to be finishing this, I think, before I do anything else, is my guess, because that's just how I'm feeling about it. Pretty enjoying knitting it, and I want to have it done. And so I will have one Rhinebeck sweater done shortly, and I will have a second Rhinebeck sweater when I finish my Monte Rosa, which I did not work on. I might have done an inch since I showed it to you last, but that's it. And I have my socks. I'm doing the whole socks with holes in, but I got to tell you, I have totally lost my sock mojo. These may be, I don't even know if I knit on them since I saw you last. This is in the Cory sock yarn from Flying Goat Farm. Cory sock in the red flannel colorway. And I like the pattern, but I'll tell you, even this simple pattern with holes, I did the one with holes because the Grocery Girls, you get an extra entry for lace socks. I'm not going to have these done. I have made my deadline for socks every month this year until now. But to tell you the truth, I don't want to knit on the socks. And I don't have to knit on the socks. I don't have to knit on the socks. It's okay. Oops, things are falling off. Okay, so I cast on that sweater while we were still at the inn. And we on Saturday we walked around Rockland and we did some stuff. And Dennis went and did his souvenir shopping at the Fiore Artesian Oil and Vinegar Shop. And this is butternut squash seed oil, which was my pick. I'm having this on my salad tonight for dinner. Delicious, really nutty taste, yummy. But we bought all kinds of vinegars too. They had flavored balsamic vinegars that they were delicious just to drink. I mean, I'm picturing them, just put some of the vinegar in club soda. I think this is like a shrub. There's a drink called a shrub, which I have to look up because I don't really know what I'm talking about. But there's a drink called a shrub that involves vinegar. And that sounds disgusting because who wants to drink vinegar? But these vinegars are so delicious. I'm picturing, just club soda and, if I want to make it an adult beverage, then some vodka. And it'll be delicious. So I'm looking forward to that. But this I'm having with my dinner. So we got a bunch of these. Very heavy bunch of these. And that was on Saturday. And I went to the yarn shop, but believe it or not, I did not buy any yarn. I bought some cable needles and a few odds and ends, but I was tempted. They had Quince & Company, which I don't own any Quince & Company. But it's nice to feel it, to know that I would love to own a lot of Quince & Company because it's beautiful yarn. And I was very tempted to buy myself a sweater quantity. I'm on vacation. And then I thought, I'm going to Rhinebeck. And I have a lot of sweater quantities of yarn now. And I didn't have a sweater in mind, so I didn't know how much to buy. So anyway, I didn't buy yarn. I know. Very hard to believe. So we went out on the boat and we had, and the sailing was great. The only problem, and I'm so glad I'm a knitter. We met a lot of wonderful people. Everybody on the boat was charming. The first day we were there, we met Mary. Hi, Mary. Who was also a knitter. So she was knitting a bulky garter stitch shawl out of Malabrigo, gorgeous Malabrigo bulky yarn, and that was fun. It was in a raspberry color. It was beautiful. And so she and I were knitting on the boat. There was a group of women who had gone to college together in Indiana and lived together when they went to college, and they get together, periodically and travel together, and they were completely charming and wonderful. And there were two other couples who were not with a group, and one other woman, Tara, who was a graphic designer. Anyway, and I'm sure I'm forgetting people, and I'm sorry, but everybody was lovely. We just had such a good time. But this boat, you can see in the picture of where I'm knitting, it's just sitting outside on this boat. In fact, one of the things they said was to bring the stadium seats with backs on them to give you some back support. You might need it because you did, because you're just sitting on the edges of the boat. The rooms were tiny, super tiny. Like, I was standing, our door opened in. And if I were 2 inches wider, I wouldn't have been able to get in and out of our room and close the door. That's how small it was. So the first night, I'm standing there, and there was a sink in your room, and there was like right there, you had a duct to get to the sink because there was some beam right there. But we had a 18-inch square space where we could stand. So I'm standing there brushing my teeth, and Dennis opens the door. I said, "You can't come in here. I'm not in bed yet." There was literally no room for the two of us to stand in the room together. So you didn't spend time down, down below unless you were taking a nap, which I don't nap. So anyway, so you spent the whole time up on the deck, and we had beautiful weather and it was lovely. But so people, and you look at the scenery going by, which is absolutely gorgeous, the Maine coast, and watch them sail and do their thing. We did help raise and lower the sails and to raise I didn't help raise the anchor. But other than that, and we could help in the galley if we wanted to. I didn't do that either. But I sat and knit, and I thought, oh my gosh, I think I'd go crazy if I weren't knitting. Because it was 3 days of sitting. Watching beautiful scenery go by. But knitting was the perfect thing, because you could sit and you could talk and socialize and watch the scenery and not, go crazy. Other people were reading, but you can't socialize and read at the same time. It doesn't work like that. So anyway, we had a wonderful time. The food was delicious. The only downside to the trip was Tuesday morning, I woke up and I had welts on my arm. They didn't look like this. They looked like welts. It looked almost like hives. And two of the women, hi Cherie, hi Jane, on the boat were nurses. So they looked at Cherie, gave me some Benadryl, and it didn't start out looking anything like poison ivy, but it ended up looking like poison ivy. But I was on a boat. There was no poison ivy anywhere. It was so bizarre. Anyway, I ended up, this is after 3 days on steroids and antibiotics. And on my legs. I got a little bit on my face. So that was the drag of it. So I'm a hot mess. Although I was able to get the blueberry stains out of my fingernails pretty well. Because we ended up buying 26 quarts of blueberries on our way home. We gave 6 of them to his mother. 20 quarts of Maine blueberries. Maine wild blueberries. They're tiny. They're only this big. There must be 3,000 blueberries in a quart of Maine wild blueberries. I've got to pick all the little stems out. So I still have to go down and do my 2 quarts today. They're not gonna be done before they go bad. So anyway, so that's what happened. That's my story. I got a rash. I got this. Oh, and I was itching like crazy. So I was itchy for the last half of my trip. I went to the doctor when I got home on Friday, and so now and they didn't know what it was either. They weren't sure. That's why I'm on antibiotic and steroids. But it is no longer itchy. It looks terrible, but it's no longer itchy. So I wanted to tell you about that because, all right. So anyway, so that was part of my trip. So the last work in progress I have, this is my Quadra shawl, which I did not take with me because I'm very close to the end. Although I am thinking that I might want to try to extend it a little bit because I'm feeling like I'm going to have yarn left. But this is the Quadra shawl by Janine McCarty, the Yarn and You girl, who has a podcast. She's charming. And she has given us that pattern, and I have drawn the winner, and I know who it is. So I have just started the last section of see the eyelet there? That last section of eyelet is where I am, and it feels like it's hard to tell how big it is because of course it's, scrunched up, but it feels like it's not as big as I would like, and I have quite a bit more yarn left. Quite a bit of yarn left, and my yarn for this is Delicious Yarns Frosting Sport in the blueberry and the green tea colorways, and this is 100% superwash merino sport. And I'm loving the colors together. I'm really happy with the shawl. I'm feeling like it may not be quite as big as I want it to be. So I mentioned that to Janine, and she said maybe make the stripe section bigger, and then when you go to the eyelets, count. But I hadn't realized I was already at the eyelets. So I may just make, there's a little stripe at the bottom. I may make a few more stripes before I do the garter edge, something like that, and just leave these as the, because it's hard to tell how much yarn I'm going to have since I am not done, and I have some sections left. So I think I'm going to finish the eyelets, do some stripes, and maybe make the garter edge a little bigger because I seem to have quite a bit of the blue left. So that's my plan, but I really, really enjoyed knitting this. I am looking forward to getting back to it when I finish my sweater. And I'm expecting this to be done when next we talk. And I'm really liking the colors. And it's so funny. This was the yarn box colors, and I was like, I don't know. But I am really enjoying knitting it. The yarn is delicious. Well, it's called Delicious Yarn. So it's true. It's delicious yarn. And I love the colors. So I'm pretty happy with that. So that is in my owl bag from Lorelei Erdo, from the Handmade by Lorelei podcast. She used to be the Knits and Beads. She changed her podcast name. So that is my last work in progress that I'm going to show you. I also have my Monte Rosa, which I'm not going to work on until I finish my new sweater. That's how it is. But I do have one finished object, which I do not have with me. I finished Isabelle Sweater that I made with the wonderful yarn from Jake at Dog Star Knits. And I made a little video before I wrapped it and gave it to her on Saturday. So I did want to explain my boo-boos on my arm because you'll see those in that video too. They were much itchier then. That was Saturday. So here's me from before. Hi all. So it is Saturday, August 26th. It is my granddaughter Isabelle's 4th birthday and my father's 86th birthday. So it is a big day in our family. And I'm about ready to pack up to wrap up Isabelle's sweater, and I thought I would just take the opportunity to tell you before I do that. And hopefully I will also have a picture of her wearing it, but maybe not because it's not that chilly. But anyway, so the sweater I made for Isabelle is the, let's see, I have two in here, North Peninsula by Gabrielle Danks Knit, and she does not have a picture here. I'm going to do a 2-minute video, and I'm going to have 14 edits because I keep coughing. And this is how it turned out. I am so tickled with it. Now, the pattern has a button band and buttons, but Isabelle wanted a zipper. And I had talked in my last episode about what I did. I added a 2-stitch I-cord to the edge of the cable. And on one side of my sweater, the I-cord was very tight, and on the other side, it was very loose. This is the loose side. I don't know if you can tell. And I thought I was going to have to re-knit the tighter one because I didn't know how I knitted the tight one in the first place, but I knew I could knit a loose one. So the zipper looks a little wavy, but I don't think it's going to be a problem once you put it on her. I mean, she's 4, so, you know, I mean, she's a slim child, but she still has a little bit of a belly. I mean, she has a shape. There's going to be, so I think it's going to work out fine. Although, looking at it in the video, it looks like it bulges more here than I think it really does. One thing is this looser side is sewn down a little bit further away from the zipper than the other side is. So it's got a little bit more of a give there. And I was thinking about going back and tacking it down again closer, but I changed my mind. I decided not to do that because I thought that's just one more thing I can do. One too many things. You know, and when we make beads, sometimes, you know, you just have to stop before you wreck it. And that's what I decided to do. So anyway, this is the size 4/6, I think. Oh, no, 3/4. Size 3/4. I made it a little bit longer because she's a little tall, but she is on the slim side. It's got this beautiful cable detail going down the front. Now the pattern calls for a beautiful cable detail going down the center of the back, which I would have loved to have in this sweater, but I didn't want to knit it, so I didn't knit it. She did try this on without the zipper the last time I saw her when we went for Sammy's birthday, when Sammy got her sweater. And the sleeves are exactly the right length for her now. And so I told her mother that I would lengthen them, but I didn't have a chance to lengthen them before I'm giving it to her, so I can just take it back at some time when it starts to look a little bit too short and add the sleeves because I have yarn left over. So anyway, this is the North Peninsula. The pattern's by Gabrielle Dansk Knit. Oh, and the yarn is this beautiful, beautiful sky blue skies, I think he called it. Oh, I don't have my original tags here. Blue skies, there's my original tag. Blue skies from Dog Star Knits. Thank you, Jake. It is absolutely gorgeous. And it knit up so beautifully. What a pleasure to knit with. So this is his worsted weight yarn. And I love it. And this blue, she loves the blue. She loves the blue, Jake. You nailed it. So anyway, so I wanted to be able to show you on the video the sweater, even though when I record this on my podcast on Monday, I won't have it anymore. But maybe I will be putting a picture of Isabelle wearing it. So anyway, back to the future. Bye. So one thing I didn't say in that clip is that I did, but you might have seen it because I put a little grosgrain ribbon on the inside of the zipper and I hand stitched that in. So it looks nice on the inside too. So she loved it. And here are pictures of Isabelle in her sweater. I forgot to take pictures of her in the sweater, so I'm driving home and I texted my daughter-in-law, can you take pictures of Isabelle? And these are the pictures that I got. She said she was really hamming it up. So yes, she was. But she loves the sweater. It fits her. It's, I made the 3/4 and it fits her just right. But it's not going to be a 2-year sweater. That's going to be a 1-year sweater, which is too bad because it's such a beautiful yarn. Well, Jake will make me more yarn. Who knows next year what her favorite color will be. I'll ask Jake to make that, whatever it is. But anyway, this is her in her sweater. And it turned out great. And I really enjoyed knitting with that yarn. His worsted weight yarn is really yummy. Really, really yummy. Okay, so that's my only finished object. I do have some goodies to share. I have, once again, I'm gonna have to start unfollowing independent yarn dyers because I'm telling you. So once again, I saw a skein of yarn on Instagram and I had to have it. This is Less Traveled Yarn in the skinny single sock which I don't think it's sock. I mean, it's a single and it's 100% superwash, so I don't know. I guess she calls it sock because it's a fingering weight, but it's not a sock yarn. There's no way you would want to make this into a sock, I don't think. Well, certainly I'm not going to. So it's 100% superwash merino, and it's in the Cleopatra colorway. And I just thought that was beautiful. I think this is a skein of yarn that I'm going to be taking to Rhinebeck to see if I can get another yarn that will go with it. Although, as I'm saying that out loud, I should go back to her website and see if she has maybe a tonal that goes with it. This dark green, I'm loving this dark green, but I don't know, maybe the gold. Anyway, I saw this color on Instagram. I'm like, okay, I'm taking that. I want that. That's mine. It's mine. So anyway, less traveled yarn in the Cleopatra colorway. And she sent along a baggie full of stitch markers, the little plastic stitch markers, and a tea, Sencha tea. Came with my package, which I think is lovely. So that's one goodie that I have. Another goodie I have is I was participating in the Moms with Yarn Tour de Fleece. I was on that team and I won a prize. Turns out everybody who competed won a prize. And my prize, it was a beautiful skein of Knit Picks Hawthorne fingering in the Cosmic Speckle. That's pretty. And this is a 80-20 superwash, fine Highland wool, and 20% polyamide. And I really like that color, so that's fun. That could be socks. And I also got stitch markers. So thank you, Sharon. Oops, came in apart. This is what it looks like because it just opened itself up. Oh, look at those reds. Pretty, very pretty. So anyway, so this was a goodie that I won. Thank you, Sharon, for my participation, such as it was, in because I was away for part of Tour de Fleece, but I did what I could. I haven't done any spinning since I got back from my trip. I have one more skein of yarn to spin up, and then I will have spun a whole sweater's worth of yarn, which I'm excited about. I want to make the breathing space out of that yarn. Out of the raspberry color I did, and then the natural color. But I have to figure out a way. I have to do the citric acid thing to set the color on that raspberry because it's still bleeding. So, but I'll set it. And last but not least, I got this as my sock yarn from Yarn Box Sock. And it is Lucky 13 fibers, purple and gray speckled, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. And this doesn't seem to have a colorway name on it. Well, maybe purple gray speckled is the color name. I guess that makes sense because it is purple and gray speckled. So this is pretty. It's 75-25, which is, maybe this will just end up being a shawl rather than a scarf, rather than socks. I like 80% in my socks. But that's pretty. So I got that from my Yarn Box Socks. And, oh, and I won a bag, an Instagram bag contest. I won an Instagram contest from the Crafty Toads. I got a bag coming, but I told them to hold on to it. I'll pick it up because we're trying to get together. Maybe we can do that after Labor Day. And I'll go and visit them because they're not that far from me now. They're in Glassboro. And sit and knit and have lunch and chat. And it'll be fun to get together with them. And I'll pick up my prize. So once I do that, then you'll see it. Meanwhile, what else do I want to talk about? So I'm participating in Fiber Share. Fiber Share is an organized yarn exchange. About 2,000 people are involved in it around the world, and basically it costs about $7 to participate because they do a lot of work organizing people, and if people don't send their package, then they supply packages to the people who got screwed. But anyway, it's not a secret exchange, so you know who you're supposed to be giving your package to, and you get their information, and they have filled out a little form, so you get, a little bit about them, and you know who is going to be sending you your package. So you're not exchanging one-on-one with another person, but you do know who's sending to you, and and basically it's not supposed to be it's a surprise in that I don't think you're supposed to tell them what you're giving them, but you're trying to find out. You want to make sure that what you're sending them is something that they want to have. The rule is that you have to send at least 200 grams of quality yarn. And, anything else that you think they would like. So, and I found out about this on Instagram. People are like, oh, I'm joining Fiber, so I looked it up and I thought it sounded interesting. So this is the last exchange of the year, but they do three exchanges a year, something like that. So if you're interested, you might want to follow them on Instagram. And so you'll be notified when the next one comes up. But so I'm looking forward to that. I like swaps, and I think it'll be fun. Also, I'm going to look up the name of my swap because, you'd think I would know that, but I don't. I can't remember. It's 24 Days of Cheer. Yep, that's it. 24 Days of Cheer. It's not too late to sign up. There's a thread in the group. Oh, words are hard today. I don't know why. So there is a thread in the group. We do have a group on Ravelry, which I didn't mention earlier, where the knit-alongs are held, and the show notes. You can find show notes for this podcast and other podcasts, other episodes. In the group. We'd love to have you join and tell us about yourself and participate. But anyway, there's a thread in the Flame and Fiber podcast group forums, and there is a link to a Google form. And this swap is being done among 8 or 10 different podcasts. So you may be joined with someone who doesn't even watch this podcast. But, it's a way to meet other people and get to know other knitters. So, and basically it's to build an advent for somebody with minis and a few odds and ends little notions or things. But to wrap it into 24 little surprise packages, and so they can have 24 days of cheer around the holidays. So the Google form will ask you some information about, what kind of things you like, so that people, once you are assigned to someone, they can have some ideas about what they might include in your package. But anyway, so I'm encouraging you, if you have any interest in having an Advent swap, to join us for that. So the Spirit of Rhinebeck, we have the knit along, the Spirit of Rhinebeck. And so it's a sweater knit along that I'm doing with Sharon of the Moms with Yarn. So we're doing that with her group. And basically it's for those of you who are going to Rhinebeck to knit your Rhinebeck sweater, and those of you who are going to Rhinebeck in spirit, if not in person, to knit your Rhinebeck sweater. You can have a Rhinebeck sweater in October. Just because you can't go to Rhinebeck doesn't mean you don't get a sweater. So whips are allowed, and so be knitting on a sweater. Knit along with us. We have a thread going. There's one finished. Oh my gosh, and it's so gorgeous. And it makes me really think I want to do color work. Oh my gosh. And lots of people are working on sweaters, so come and join us. There's a chatter thread. I'll be pulling a prize from the finished objects thread and a prize from the chatter thread. And of course, double, triple, quadruple dipping is fine. Go to Sharon's thread on the Moms with Yarn, in the Moms with Yarn group, and she's going to have prizes too. So basically, it's just come and knit a sweater, and whips are allowed because, you know, if you didn't quite finish last year's Rhinebeck sweater, well, maybe now's the time to finish it. So we want to encourage that. So come and join us for the Spirit of Rhinebeck knit along. And we have our year-long Knit Tiny Things knit along going on. I haven't knit a tiny thing in a while, and I got to do that because time is closing in on me to make sure I have all the little tiny things I want to make for the Advent calendar for my granddaughters. So although I do have a bird that was given to me by Diane. It's so beautiful. Well, I think this one's the one I get, right? That's for my tree. But I need to start working on that. So basically, if you knit a tiny thing, an ornament, a little cutie pie thing like this little bird. Oops, there's the eye part. Little tiny little animals, things like that. Anything small that you knit counts. And we're pulling quarterly prizes. So at the end of September, I will be giving away, announcing another prize winner. So there's one thread for chatter and finished objects. So participation is important. And come and, you know, show us your little cute things that maybe then we'll want to knit for our tree or our Advent or our grandbabies or whoever. So anyway, so those are the two knit-alongs that are going on. We had a giveaway for the Quadra Shawl pattern from Janine McCarty, which I sincerely enjoyed knitting that. I almost took it with me on my trip, but I thought I was so close to the end that it didn't make sense. So I'm looking forward to getting back to that. I love how it's turning out, and it's very enjoyable to knit. So I highly recommend it. I have closed the thread, and I have drawn the winner, and the winner is Fire Threads. Elizabeth. Number 6 was the number that was chosen, and Elizabeth is the winner. So thank you so much for everybody who participated, and congratulations, Elizabeth. Message me on Ravelry, and I will let Janine know, and she will send you the pattern, and that will be, and you'll really love it, I'm sure. I'm really enjoying knitting it. So congratulations. She said she was going to do hers in a green, blue, purple yarn, and maybe team it with egg blue or purple, or maybe use all three. So that sounds like fun. So anyway, I'm not sure what else to say. That was a little choppy of an episode, a little stream of consciousness. I really did write notes, but my trip got mixed in with all this because I was knitting on my trip. I just don't know how all those people, they were, you know, some people were reading, which, you know, I totally get, but I thought knitting was the perfect thing to do on that trip because, you know, you're sitting with people, you can talk, you can watch the scenery and knit. And I'm so happy with my sweater. I'm so excited. So we'll see how that goes. I hope I can block it a little wider though, because it should have a little positive ease. I'm very excited about my Moxie. That was fun. Who ever heard of Moxie? I know if you're from New England, you knew all about Moxie. And I'm told you either love it or you hate it, but I like it. And it's always fun to find new things. So I think that's it. I will put some pictures of our sail in Maine, and I can't believe I did not take a picture of that tiny little cabin. Of course, I would have had to stand outside to take a picture of it, but I didn't. But we got pictures of the boat, and if you ever want to take a sailing trip around the coast of Maine, which I recommend, it was so beautiful. We had gorgeous weather. J&E Riggin, Maine. I'm putting it there. I'm putting it right there. MaineSchooner.com? No. MaineWindjammer.com is what the website is called. And they were lovely people, and we had a wonderful time. So I will leave you with pictures from my trip, and I hope you have lots of time to do the crafting that brings you joy. And I will talk to you in 2 weeks. Bye.